the thing that's so nice, and I think the reason that this type of medicine is so suited to me is that the advances in technology for the things that we can look at, that we can measure in your body, most doctors don't even know that they can order them or do them. And we're definitely not trained out in a medical school, but we can do that detective work that is really fun.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleacademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou. And boy, do we have a special episode lined up for you today. Today's episode features a phenomenal guest co-host, the lovely, the talented, the delightful Teresa Dugwell, and a spectacular new sister from another mister. She is a globally renowned thought leader. She is an all-round great gal. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Ann Shippy. Welcome to the show, Ann.
Oh, thank you. I think that's the strongest introduction I've ever had. Thank
We're
you.
known for that on this show. You know, I'm kind of like a Bruce Buffer of podcast introductions. If
I
you've
love
ever
it.
watched UFC, you know who Bruce Buffer is. So, all right. So, Ann, the people that listen to the show are society's great heroes. They're the entrepreneurs, the heart-driven people who move things. They move the human race forward by the beauty and the majesty of their dreams. They listen to this podcast not because of me. I'm here every week. They're here for you. And I guess a little bit for Teresa too. But before they can open themselves up to you, they got to get to know you. So tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Ann Shippy?
Well, it's been a very circuitous route, which I think most leaders and entrepreneurs can relate to. If you had told me I was going to end up here when I was starting to college, I would have thought you were crazy, because I went into chemical engineering. I, was good at math and loved solving problems. So I got a degree from Washington University in St. Louis and went to work for IBM.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And whoa, I didn't know what was going to hit me there from a standpoint of career opportunities. Within 2 years, I was promoted into management. Every year to year and a half, I was getting promoted, given new assignments, new teams to lead. And about 9 years in, I thought I was the IBM color blue ran in my blood, that I was going to retire from IBM and, be there my entire career. But I got sick and I got really scared. I went from doctor to doctor and wasn't getting answers. I got so thin that my employees thought I had cancer. I'm about 31 at that point. And so I realized, even though doctors are in my family, I had 2 uncles that are doctors, like, this is not going to solve it. I was going to have to take this on myself. So I started just researching and trying different things, going to different kinds of practitioners, saw an acupuncturist, an herbalist, a naturalist, an Ayurvedic specialist, like just started looking for the piece of the puzzle myself, kind of like you do in engineering. You're collecting data and forming hypotheses and seeing what works. And finally, I got better. And I was at that point reporting into the plant manager and had started traveling a bunch, but I was still like on the edge with what I could eat and how I needed to live. So if I had to be gone for a week, I'd get a little cooler and take it on the airplane with take enough food and a little hot pot. I was, I just had to be so careful with my body. But when I very clear decision point, I I woke at coming back from a trip after being gone for a week, and woke up at 4 in the morning, and I just knew I had a new path. I was going to quit engineering and go to medical school because I knew that we had to practice medicine differently. So I had no idea what I was like, what that was going to entail. It basically took another, 9 years of my life to get to where I could actually go into practice because I had never taken a biology class.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think the thing for the listeners is um, when you have those nudges, listen, because even though it may sound crazy at the time, um, and kind of insurmountable, you got to listen and take the next step. And what's really remarkable is even though I'd been out of college almost 10 years and I needed to take the MCAT and go back and, refresh on physics and organic chemistry and chemistry, take the biology classes. Within 9 months, I was accepted into medical school.
Wow.
And so it's kind of having that that message, and then just taking the next best step. Um, and then now I didn't know what the path was going to look like. Like, how do I get to do medicine differently? But I got sick again after I had one child in med school and one child in residency. So a couple of years into practice, I developed a couple of autoimmune disorders.
Wow.
Because I had gotten off my path. I was doing just regular internal medicine. I was the doctor that didn't help me. And so fortunately, my body taught me again. And then that's when functional medicine came on the map, and I started studying environmental medicine and the things to stack on top of the MD. I'm very grateful for my MD. I use it every day to help my patients. It's a great starting place, but I needed some additional tools in my toolbox to really be able to help my patients. And I learned from my body that you can reverse autoimmune diseases.
So I could probably ask you some questions around that, but I'm going to let Teresa take this one.
Okay.
Your story, it's interesting because we chatted about this before, and from my own experience with developing autoimmune challenges, and but what I love is that you actually took it on with, you have your MD, but you're also the functional, where you look beyond just the medicinal route, because like you, there is no real help if you take the medicinal route completely, and there you have to look for other options, and you have to do it on your own a lot of times. So I love that. And so I'm curious now that you've been working on your own autoimmune, is there anything that you see stands out in this particular area for autoimmune?
Yeah. So autoimmune diseases are one of my favorite things to work on for patients, because it's having completely reverse them. I can just first of all hold that space for them. I think it's really important to start there with what your mind will believe, right? So just that willingness to believe that it's possible, and then to do the work. It's a lot of work. So when I'm helping patients discover what it is that's caused their immune systems to get confused, we look at a whole lot of different things. It can be environmental toxic exposures, which is very common. So having a buildup of things like heavy metals and pesticides, or plastics and PFAS and all those things that we're exposed to in little bits every day, but can accumulate in our bodies. We look at how the mitochondria are functioning, the little organelles inside the cells that sometimes get worn out. We look at the digestive system. Like, is there a problem with intestinal permeability? And are there things that we need to do to heal the gut? Because a lot of the immune system actually resides there. 60 to 70% of the immune system is there. So it makes sense, if it's confused, to really make sure you fine tune that. And the list goes on and on. But the thing that's so nice, and I think the reason that this type of medicine is so suited to me is that kind of math and chemical engineering thing. The advances in technology for the things that we can look at, that we can measure in your body. Most doctors don't even know that they can order them or do them. And we're definitely not trained at it at medical school, but we can do that detective work that is really fun, where you can have a theory. Okay, like for me, I had a bunch of amalgam fillings, this old silver fillings, and I know some things about my genetics, like I don't make glutathione very well and I don't methylate very well. So, and I have some liver enzyme that don't get the detox pathway started. So just looking at those things that could then be building up in the body and being able to measure them and then know, are we doing the right things to help the body to adjust?
It's fascinating. And being to be able to understand how your body actually interacts and processes these elements that are exterior even, and whether or not our bodies are holding on to them. And that's really quite fascinating, as well as so informative for you to help your patients. I'm also curious, do you have a particular, like autoimmune is the area that you specialize. Do you find there's any particular group that stands out with having autoimmune problems?
Um, do you mean like men or women or ages or?
Men, women, and ages.
Yeah, well, it's one of these really concerning statistics. It is, we went through a pandemic. Well, we definitely have an epidemic occurring of autoimmune diseases in our children, even in the elderly, both men and women. What I really like to do is to do when a patient comes to see me, even if they don't have a, autoimmune diagnosis, a lot of times I'll still look for the autoimmune markers, because a lot of times that process is going on in the body well before they actually have a symptom that is actually the diagnosis of an autoimmune, like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto's. It's been going on for a while. So I believe that we should be doing screenings for these things as part of just like we would in a physical, because it's such a big issue these days.
Wow, so interesting, and that way of thinking, just really having everyone being measured, whether or not they're carrying any potential risk of developing autoimmune down the road. It just hasn't shown up yet, but it's there. So that's a wonderful add-on that you're offering for people.
So, I'm so lucky because a lot of times I get to see the family units. So I get to see the children and the parents and the grandparents. So I can get to see the themes of how all the things kind of fit together generational to generational. So one of my wonderful areas of interest is on fertility and preconception. So what men and women can be doing before they get pregnant to really get even things like autoimmune markers in a good place, so that they can pass on the best genetics and epigenetics, how the genes are being expressed through the egg and the sperm to have healthier babies.
That's
Talk about
pretty.
that.
Yes. Do you actually, if a woman has an analysis or an evaluation from you or a couple that are getting pregnant, do you find that these couples want to find out like what potential genetics can be passed on, so that they can actually maybe do some work to prevent some things from occurring in the children?
Yes. So when we talk about genetics, there are two different categories that we can look at. One is to look for genes that might get passed on. So things like cystic fibrosis, that's such a devastating disease to have. The father and the mother have to both have a cystic fibrosis gene for the child to have any illness related to it. So there's screening that you can do in advance to look to see what genes you carry. Like one of my children is a carrier for a genetic disease. So when he decides to have kids, he should check, with his partner to make sure that she's not a carrier too. But then there's something called epigenetics, which is this whole new field of how the genes that you do have, whether they're dialed up or dialed down to express a particular problem. So one example that I love that's so fun for men is that their stress levels and how their metabolism is going can actually get passed on to the child. So I want to do things like let men know how their health before they pass on the sperm can actually impact the health of their child. So if they're drinking alcohol, that can affect the epigenetics of the sperm. If they're smoking, if they're super stressed, if they're exposed to toxins, like plastics, the BPA is really problematic, passing it down from an epigenetic standpoint that can actually affect the hormones of the future child. So by working with both men and women to get their health really good, so their epigenetics are good, it can actually help the future child.
Wow. Because it's not something I'm familiar with regards to couples doing this before they have children. How is this getting out there into the world to have men and women actually know this exists and is very valuable before you even get pregnant? How's that getting out
This
there?
is so near and dear to my heart. It's like, thank you for asking that question because this is part of what I'm like, I really want to dedicate the next 5 of my years of my life to is to help men and women know about this because we have such a children's health epidemic. The 1 in 31 kids are being diagnosed with autism now, the mental health, the diabetes, the autoimmunity, the cancer. Like our children are so sick. They're not being given the best chance at the best life. And I really believe that a lot of this can be impacted by the men and women knowing before they get pregnant and doing that work before to set the kid up for the best success.
But so why is that, right? I mean, I remember watching Robert Kennedy Jr. on an interview, right? Bobby was saying that in the late 60s, 1 in 10,000 kids would get autism, and today it's 1 in 31. So surely the reasons for that are a little bit more nuanced and complicated than just what parents are passing, right?
No, but there's actually links with a lot of these. So there's epigenetic links. It's not the only link, but when you start before conception, it can really make a difference in the long run. But then you still want to do the things, the healthy living for the child. So, what you feed it, the toxins it's exposed to, whether it's getting the nutrients that it needs will also impact the gene expression and how well the baby can detoxify and build neurons and all the things that can impact all of these things.
So what are your thoughts on some of these policies that Bobby Kennedy's pushing with his, Make America Healthy Again movement, right? Because he got rid of a lot of the food dyes, right? Like the red dye number 3 and that sort of thing. And he didn't outright ban vaccines, but he's certainly taken certain vaccines off the market, and he's gone to the vaccine makers and said, you need to rejigger these so they don't have these negative effects. What are your thoughts on that? Because I haven't spoken to someone like you who's done research into this before. Just talk to people like me who have like a layperson's interest.
Yeah. So we have a problem. The vaccine companies are not responsible for the safety of the vaccines.
They're not?
No.
Who is?
Nobody really. There's a government agency that will pay out a little bit of money, but it's pretty much impossible for these kids that are vaccine injured to receive any significant compensation. So we need to make the vaccine manufacturers responsible for the safety of the vaccines again.
Great. Damn straight.
So there's a lot of conversation about what he is and what he isn't doing. I think if you really just listen to his words rather than how the news is portraying what he's doing, it really makes sense. And I'm going to be emotional again. You're asking a lot of good questions. Um, I didn't realize it at the time, but I had a child who had a vaccine injury.
No.
He's fine. He snapped out of it, but he looked like he was on the autism route. He
Yeah.
quit making eye contact after a vaccine. So I was in residency at the time. I immediately took him to the pediatrician. The pediatrician freaked out, sent me to the ophthalmologist. The ophthalmologist freaked out. He said, nothing wrong with his eyes, but you need to take him to the neurologist. So he saw 4 doctors in 2 days, me, pediatrician, ophthalmologist, neurologist. None of us even considered that he had had a vaccine the day before. We're in the medical field, we're blinded to it. And I think that's what happened with the COVID vaccines too. Like when you really look at the COVID situation, there was a lot of harm done with the COVID vaccines.
Well, Teresa and I decided not to take them. I mean, my mother was an OR nurse for over 20 years in Iran. My dad helped equip hospitals in Iran, so he would buy hospital laundry equipment, centrifuges, things like that. And I'm a layperson, I'm not a doctor, but my understanding of a vaccine is a vaccine takes 8 years to properly develop and test. And this was done in like 6 months, 9 months, some crazy number like that. You can call it whatever you want, but it's not a vaccine. It's not a vaccine. It's
Yeah.
some sort of experimental shot. And I know a lot of people anecdotally in our world that took it and had adverse effects. So we're
My
really glad we
patient
didn't take it.
yesterday was just devastated by her second COVID shot. Devastated. Like, yeah.
We think there's a lot of people that have died because they took that shot. We know there's been a lot of people that had
Yeah.
terrible adverse reactions. And honestly, I stopped paying attention to the news. I started listening to the people that were raising the alarm, like Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Robert Malone and folks like that. And I got to say, they made a lot of sense to me. They didn't seem like they were crazy, wild-eyed radicals. They seemed like they were normal, measured, sensible people that were giving really good advice. I interviewed Dr. Joe Wang. Now, Joe Wang is no longer practicing medicine, but he used to develop vaccines for Sanofi Pasteur.
Oh.
Now he is the chairman and CEO of the Epoch Times and New Tang Dynasty Television Canada. So these are the anti-Chinese Communist Party Chinese media group. And he told us, that he's not anti-vax, not at all. I mean, he developed vaccines for a living for 25 years, but he had grave concerns, he said, about the so-called COVID vaccine. And that's how he would call it. He wouldn't call it the vaccine. He'd call it the so-called COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there were some clues that happened early on. The fact that they'd been studying the mRNA vaccines for years and they never made it out of animal studies because of too many complications. And then also when they did start doing the studies, they broke the control groups. So there were no control. There's no data showing what a true study looking at vaccinated versus unvaccinated on how effective the so-called vaccines were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good detective work, guys.
Yeah. Thanks. No. Well, what are your thoughts on like all these getting dyes out of foods and that sort of thing? I'd really like to hear your thoughts, and I'll turn it over to Teresa for a bit.
Yeah, I think we all need that. When we look at what are the things that are contributing to all of our major health issues, whether it's dementia, heart disease, autoimmunity, autism, all of these things, when we go and we kind of look at the overall picture of what are the associations, what are the likely causes, it's complex. It's not just one thing. It's, vaccines probably do play a role for some children like mine, but there's other things. And so the more reasonable we can be with like what our biology is, it doesn't make sense to put chemicals in our bodies that then we're asking our bodies to try to figure out what it is and what to do with it, how to get it out. So all the places that we can really be aware of what we're putting in and on our bodies, as well as what we're breathing, um, really can dramatically change the trajectory of our health.
So
So
I'll just say this and I'll leave it to Teresa after this, but it sounds like you think Bobby Kennedy is doing some good things and he's asking the right questions and he's got the balls to go up against the big pharma behemoth and force them to heal. And we both feel the same way.
I'm very grateful for the work that he's doing.
Me too. And he'd have never gotten in. Who would have thought that the darling of the Democrat Party, the Kennedy family, would have a member with the conservative Republican president, and a conservative Republican president is letting him push these big pharma companies around. Like, politics makes for a strange bedfellows, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's gotten very interesting. But yeah, it's going to be, I think the next 3 years are going to be very telling.
Yeah, yeah. I wish we had a Bobby Kennedy in Canada. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, Teresa, go ahead, hon.
Yeah, I want to just go back to that mission in a sense that you have with healing the future moms and dads that may not necessarily have it in their plan, but it is the future mom and dads that you want to heal because that will produce healthier children or healthy children. And
Healthier families, yeah.
and I'm curious, is there much information out there? Are there others doing this and making this a something that is important in order to help our children be healthy children when they're born? Is there anyone out there, or is it?
It's me right now. And then there are a few other people that are starting to talk about it. I think a lot of times people start thinking about it because they have infertility issues. So I actually think infertility is a gift because it's Mother Nature saying, things aren't good. When people work with me, they get a green light. We know the most important things are in place to be able to have a healthy baby, but there's this yellow zone that people don't know to really stop instead of proceeding with caution. They should be stopping. It's like they're at the highway and don't know. But when you look at the statistics of where we are with children's health, and so the hope is that my book that's coming out in November, called The Preconception Revolution, is the start of something big. Like, my goal with this is that men and women don't get pregnant until they know their bodies really are ready, that they stop at the yellow light until they know that they've done the things that they need to do. So what I've written about and what I want to provide for people is to know exactly what to do the 3, 6, 12 months before. The longer you have, the better, before your first child. But it's important between pregnancies too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's whether you're starting or growing your family, we really need a good few months to build up the nutrients. The phytonutrients for men are so important for how that gene expression is going to go. Like, they need to be eating their fruits and vegetables and getting their good protein in and managing their stress and avoiding the toxins so that they can pass on the healthiest sperm to give the baby the best start. And with the women, it's just as important, maybe a little bit more in a way, because then the baby gets bathed in her, basically in her environment, whether there's toxins or nutrients. So the woman she needs to do that work the 3 to 12, 24 months before the pregnancy or between the pregnancies, but then continue it on. So I really am hoping that, just like women don't think about having a baby without getting on a prenatal, I want to get to the point where men and women don't think about even starting to try until they are sure there's a good green light for a healthy baby.
have you had an opportunity to help many future moms and dads reach that green light?
Yes, yes. And what's so fun is that it works even in their early to mid 40s. So this age thing where there's all this talk about, oh, women's eggs are getting old, men's sperm is getting old, even if they've had infertility or even had um, children that have had autism or autoimmune diseases, have gotten pregnant with their healthiest baby yet and the easiest, sometimes by accident, unfortunately. I usually try to remind people that they might get more pregnant if they're just coming in to work with me or more fertile. Trying to remember to tell them, but they don't always believe me. So we've had a few babies on accident when they thought they were done. And sometimes because they thought that they were infertile or because they had children with autism or other health issues. And it's really fun to see these beautiful children that are so healthy, regardless of the parent's age. And then I've had people that, that had failed IVF and, went to multiple fertility experts and were just told to give up, that now have 4 children.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear more about your book.
Oh, thank you.
More about the book, and you said in November it's being
November 18th, and it's up for pre-sale. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the things right now. And there's a landing page on my website, andshippymd.com, and it's got a lot of information in it. It's really taking 20 years of doing this, really precision medicine on multiple generations. And so you can go through it, and if you're like the fact finder, you can really delve into all the chapters and the references and the appendix and have tons of information. Or if you're like, just tell me what to do. I just need to get going. I want to get pregnant in 3 months. I want the green light. Just tell me what to go. So I really tried to accommodate both men and women, and then depending on where you are in your journey. And then one of the other things I really love to do is work with women between pregnancies, because pregnancy is kind of hard on your body. The baby sucks out what it needs, and it makes a whole lot of changes. And so a lot of the things in the book for preconception also work for postpartum, for those months afterwards, to really help rebuild your body.
beautiful. You have this mission of reaching the moms and dads, or the future moms and dads for babies. And I'm curious, do you have any ideas as to, first of all, what does that mission look like for you? And then I'd like to know any ideas you have for how people can help you get that message out there to make this difference.
Oh, I love that question. Thank you for asking that. I need help. To start a revolution, I need help. So I would just ask, even if, for people that are listening, that even if they're already done growing their family or they're not planning a family, that the people that they do know that might want to have a child someday, or that are thinking about it or trying, to please pass this information along to them. So that we just start planting the seeds. Sometimes you have to offer information to people multiple times before they were ready to hear it or digest it. So just start planting the seeds. I think that future grandparents are also going to be really interested in this book, because they see what's happening with our children's health. And a lot of times, it's just devastating for grandparents to have a grandchild that's got health issues. I mean, it's so hard. So to think about the prevention for their, for their grandchildren, I think is going to be a really great way to support their children and grandchildren. And then I'm in the process of developing a course, so that if people need a little bit more help, then what's on the in the book, and they want to be able to do Q&As and actually run some of the labs that I like to do, like looking at the mitochondria. There's these amazing sperm tests that we can do now that not just look at the traditional things like sperm count and morphology, but actually can tell what some of the epigenetic markers are, like how good is how much work got done? Did it make a difference to give up my alcohol or eat my broccoli? We can start to see that the epigenetics of the sperm is healthier. So that's super fun. So for people that want to dive in a little bit more with me, we're going to have an online program to be able to help with that. And then the real mission, I had somebody help me with what am I going to call my companies over 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And when I described like what was in my heart, what I really wanted for humanity, she helped me come up with the names Every Life Well and Every Baby Well. And so along with the Shippy MD, I've been working on developing the Every Life Well brand for all that time. But the Every Baby thing just has been sitting on the back burner. So I'm really excited about finally completing this book. It's been in the works. It's been gestating since 2016. So it's really exciting that it's about to be in print, and that we're going to have a new website for Every Baby Well, and just really, really serve these parents.
There's a couple of thoughts I have for you, putting on my thought leader, accelerator, coach hat. You need to go on 3 types of podcasts. One is big podcasts with lots of audience, because, that'll get your message and your book sold. You need to go on some podcasts where the hosts are moms. Like I'd like screen for that. You know what I mean? Or the hosts are newly married. That's one of those 2 things to screen for.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to go on podcasts hosted by people who have large networks of women. I was thinking, like in TLC, there's a couple of folks, the E-Women Network people and the woman-centered coaching people. Like, I'd want to help you put together a good message to take to both those sets of folks, because they've got 100,000 women each that they can put you in front of if we make it something that there's something beautiful in it for them and for those women as well. Online course is great. It's becoming a little harder and harder to sell high ticket online. People are needing to drop their price for online to low ticket. Problem with low ticket is people don't value it. They'll buy it, but they won't do anything with it. I like you for a higher ticket program that's a little bit of a group coaching program. I mean, you can call it an online program, but they should get a lot of you, and they should pay a lot of money for it. Like 5, 10, 20 grand, something in that line, rather than $200 to $500. I want to get like 500,000 women doing that to be a part of your group a year. Those are my thoughts.
I want the men too.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
No, I love that. I think the women are like, they're tuned in.
The women are
going to know. I want to know
buyers, and they're going to drag the men over, because the men are going to die from them. I'm just not. I'm just being straight with you. We're not going to come buy this, but if our wives say you're coming, we'll come. There might be a way to get to men. I'd have to think about that. But I know it'd be easier to get to women. Those are things I think you ought to do. And then I want to make you a sales ninja so you can sell like Nikki, so you can get a ton of these people there.
Great.
Yeah. So
I'm also thinking Robert Kennedy, to find a way to access, to make that connection.
I have a cell phone.
Oh, okay.
You've got Robert Kennedy's cell phone? Good for you. How cool are you, girl? So I want to know the story. How'd you get Robert Kennedy's cell phone? All right, tell us the story.
I'm not telling it on a recording. We just right before COVID hit, he was hosted in Austin, and I was his host. Like, I was the person that took him between all the different events. So I got to know, and he came to my office for a couple hours. So I got to know him.
He's a cool guy.
Just because our missions are so aligned.
No kidding, eh? Good stuff.
Mhm.
That is cool. That
Mhm.
is super, super cool.
Yeah. No, it was really,
So
really, I mean, I was kind of hoping he was going to get elected president because of, where I
the,
stand with
the,
all the health
Dem-
stuff.
the
But
Democratic Party was not going to let him win the
but
nomination. If
it
it
would
was
have,
a fair primary, he totally would have been the nominee. And I think
right.
him and Trump would have been a way closer election than it ended up being.
Yeah. But I think this is actually better because he can just really focus on the health and not get pulled into, what's going on in Israel and other things that would have just spread him thin.
Honestly, I think what he's doing is the single most remarkable thing the Trump administration is doing. I, um, I pinch myself and going, we got a pro-human health advocate running
Mhm.
the Department of Health and Human Services in the biggest, most powerful, most important country in the world. This is going to have huge global ramifications. And anyways, not to be a political prognosticator, but I am. I mean, outside of talking about business and men's stuff, I talk about freedom and political issues. I've been on a number of programs in Canada and the US, and I did it because of COVID. Before COVID, I never would talk about politics. We just say, like, keep religion and politics out of everything. And I respected that at TLC because they said, check your politics. Darn, I respected that. I'm
Yeah.
just a guest
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Especially there, you need to.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I respect that they ask for that. But I made a decision in 2022, um, after the trucker convoy, because one of our friends was one of the organizers of
Oh,
the trucker convoy in Canada. We went to Ottawa. This was the most peaceful, family-oriented, bouncy castles with little kids on them protest you've ever seen. They just asked to speak to the prime minister. The prime minister viciously attacked them, called them nasty names, and tried to take all their rights and freedoms and monies away from them, like tried to throw them in jail for the rest of their lives and um, stuff like that. And I just looked at Teresa and I said, look, um, I love you. I appreciate you. And I want your opinion on most things, but I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm going to be talking politics publicly and I'm going to associate it with our business brand. And I said, I can't stay silent after what happened. And to her credit, she said, I agree with you. Do it.
mm.
So,
And how has that been for you?
um, on the whole, it's been great. I've lost friends. Not going to lie, I've lost friends. But the way I see it, if we can't disagree politically and still be friends, we were never really friends to begin with.
Mhm.
But it's attracted unbelievable people to me.
Mm.
I got to interview Kevin Sorbo. You know who that is?
No,
So Kevin Sorbo is an actor. He played Hercules on television. He was in that Andromeda series. He's played in a bunch of movies. He was in that movie Soul Surfer. Did you ever see Soul Surfer? Oh, you got to see Soul Surfer.
okay. I'll put it on my list.
Um, so Soul Surfer is about Bethany Hamilton. True story. Bethany and her family, and Kevin played her dad, were these like globally renowned surfers in Hawaii. Anyways, she was out there surfing, and a great white bit off her arm. Um, and she went into shock. Her dad took her back, and she kept competing after that arm. Girl has been competing and winning with a shark bitten off arm.
Oh my God.
It's a crazy story. Yeah, the Bethany Hamilton story. So, anyways, Kevin is a big actor, and he came out as a Christian, and all the big roles dried up for him after he did that. And yeah, crazy, crazy. We got the new McCarthy era these days. If you come out in Hollywood and express certain opinions, you're going to get
Hmm,
blacklisted.
that's
But
interesting.
Kevin came on my show. That was big because he's got a massive following on social media. I had Dr. Sean Baker, the author of the Carnivore Diet, on my show. Do you know him? Really cool guy. He was really, really great. I had Robert Cialdini on the show, influence guy. A lot of the people Jack Canfield, Marie Diamond, blah, 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 blah. A lot of huge people have come there. Um, it attracted a bunch of people to me. A lot of people said, okay, I like what you stand for, so go for it.
Oh, nice.
You're the freedom man. You're the one who stands for, body freedom and political freedom. And in Canada, I spoke out against the crackdowns. They came after Teresa and I's bank accounts in Canada.
I was going to just ask that because
They didn't close them, but Justin Trudeau invoked something called the Emergencies Act. It used to be called the War Powers Act. Basically, it's meant to be used in war to shut down enemy bank accounts, right? So he used it against his own citizens who were protesting against his policies. I mean, just think about this. And the Canadian system's parliamentary. We have a Senate, but it's not like your Senate, it's appointed. And Justin Trudeau thought, well, the Senate's just going to rubber stamp what I'm doing here, right? Because I appointed most of them. Well, funny little thing happened. These, political liberals were like old school civil libertarians, and they kind of were horrified at the invocation of the Emergencies Act. And the leader of the Senate went to him, Soto voice, and said, if you bring this to the Senate, it's going to be voted down. And if it was voted down at that time, that would be called a crisis of confidence in the government, and he would have to call an election and he would lose it. So he pulled the Emergencies Act before our bank accounts could actually be shut down. But they were coming after us pretty hard about that stuff. It was pretty wild.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we loved the people that stood up here in Canada and in the US. And Bobby Kennedy was a particular hero for both of us. And we never got to meet him like you did, so I'm a little jealous. But we knew a lot of people that knew him well. And I co-wrote a book with a personal friend of President Trump's, and President Trump endorsed it on Truth Social. And then Amazon shut our account down the next day.
Seriously?
Seriously. Took me 3 weeks to get it opened again. So all the beautiful, we did well, don't get me wrong, but we should have done supernova well, because after Trump pushed it on Truth Social, 150 media outlets picked up the endorsement and repeated it. All while the book is not allowed to be sold by Amazon.
Oh my God, that's crazy. It's so interesting how much control there still is over things, that it's not quite as obvious as it was during that time. Somebody last night introduced me to something called BitChat. Yeah, it's basically Jack Dorsey's app that communicates by Bluetooth between phone or whatever. You can set up an account, and then you can communicate so that messages can't be tracked. So
Thanks for telling us about that. I really appreciate that.
Everything on our computers and our phones and are probably all.
Not probably. They're all tracked. I used to be in IT security, and I'm telling you, it's all.
Oh, okay. So you actually know. I'm just suspicious based on some things that happened to me. But yeah, I mean, it does take. It does take a fair amount of courage to be speaking up and having these conversations. And
my family escaped from Iran to live in a free country. And I'll be goddamned if I'm going to watch people steal those freedoms and stay silent.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that. And when Israel bombed Iran, I was frightened to death for my family members in Tehran. But I was also shouting with joy that the Islamic Republic was finally going to fall, and the biggest source of instability in the world was going to be removed. And that didn't end up happening, but I think that government's on its last legs, and soon we will have the pro-human, pro-Western Reza Shah II in charge of Iran, and I pray for that every day.
Mm.
And I see, JFK was a great friend of the Shah's, and a great friend of Iran's, and he was also a great friend of health. And the president's physical fitness test, which he introduced in the 60s, just got reintroduced. How crazy is that?
Seriously, that's amazing.
Last week, you didn't see that?
No.
No, Kennedy, Bobby and Trump were in the room. Trump signed the executive order. Bobby was pushing for it. Bobby's been pushing for it from day one.
That's so great. Yeah, there's so many levels that we can do better, right?
Yeah.
There's so many levels, whether it's, what's in our food to what's not in our food to how we're moving our bodies to whether we have hope. So one of the things I acknowledge you for, and that I so appreciate your sharing with me today, is that even though you've seen the worst, right? You've just seen where you didn't even feel like it was safe to breathe.
Yeah.
To, what went down in Canada, which was so alarming, to what went down globally. And what I hear in your story is that you're hopeful, that speaking up, that having these conversations is the future. And that's really what's going to make the difference.
Amen. And listen, within certain organizations like TLC, if we get invited back to TLC and that's their rule while we're there, we're going to respect it because we believe in being respectful. But out there in the world, all bets are off, girl. All bets are off. Teresa, honey, you have any last questions for Ann before we wrap up?
I just love the mission that you're on and how you are committed to having as many children as possible come into this world healthier or healthy, and which will in turn, of course, in the future, reduce the autoimmune and all these disorders and diseases that happen as a result of coming from the parents. I have a very active kitty cat that wants attention. So she jumped up earlier in front of me, so we was like jumping and then down.
She wants to talk. She has something to say.
Very active around me, and I'm sort of muting myself, thinking, okay. She's so, but and I would like to what is one way that, and you said earlier about grandparents and so forth, but what is something that we could do as your friend here to help? Is there anything that we can do to spread the word, to get this information out? Your book, like when you launch.
Yes, anything you're up for. I'm grateful to get to talk to you about it today. And then anything else you can think of, I'm really open.
Well, all those things I shared with you, happy to chat with you offline.
Yeah,
Introduce you to some people. And we should probably have a chat with you to see what your plans are and how we can be helpful, because we'd love to be helpful to you. So
that would be amazing. I just love meeting both of you. I can feel your hearts and your and your missions for how, where you're going and the difference that you want to make. So I'd love to collaborate in any way that we can.
So Ann, we like to end off each episode by asking you, our guest expert, what are your top 3 expert action steps? These are your 3 best pieces of life or success advice in bullet point form that you want our listener to take on. So what say you?
Sleep. Really prioritize your sleep. The longevity studies are very, very clear. Sleep. Do what it takes to be able to sleep. Number 2 is eat your vegetables. Like just the simple stuff. Like I do peptides, I do stem cells, I do all kinds of things for patients in my office, but you need to lay a good foundation first and then look at the accessories. And then the third thing is be aware of your thoughts. Your thoughts drive your biology. So be kind to yourself and create that environment. Have the conversations that create the feeling that you want to feel. If you want to feel peaceful, have the peaceful conversation. If you want to be joyful, bring the joyful energy to the conversation. So you can totally create your reality by being aware of the thoughts and then choosing them.
Oh, we love that. That's super califragilistic. Awesome. So, where do you want us to direct people to? Is there something you want to offer people? Is there your book you want to talk about? Where do we want to send them?
Please come and check out my book. You can go to AnnShippyMD.com, and it's right there at the top of the page for right now.
Okay, great. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes.
Thank you.
So, Teresa, my love, my darling and delightful lady, thank you for coming and co-hosting this with me.
This is such an honor to actually have this conversation, continue our conversation.
Yeah.
So I just love your mission, and it means a lot. And thank you for for caring so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm a mirror to you.
And you're like our people. Like, we have our own little community that we have here of heart-driven, awesome people that are making the world a better place. And you're just like every single one of them. We love you.
I love you guys too. I look forward to so many more conversations.
100%. And ways to be of service and collaborate and all that. And thank you for coming on the show and sharing your stories and your wisdom. And I got to say, for me, the coolest part of the interview, there was a lot of cool things, but when you said, I have Bobby Kennedy's cell number, I'm like, okay, this lady's just got, she just like went, mic drop moment there, Nikki B. I got his cell number. Boom.
Well,
You like him? You agree with him? I got his cell number. Okay. Thank you.
I mean, I don't need to like normally share that kind of thing, right?
That's pretty cool. Come on. That's like next level.
It's probably good to cut. You're going to cut that part out, right? Please. Because like, that's.
No one's going to call you and ask you for a cell number. Don't worry about it. Okay. And if they do, just say, I can't give it out. But it's not what's going to happen. It's good. Look, for you to say, hey, I know Bobby Kennedy and I agree with what he's trying to do to make people healthier is good for your brand. So
yeah, no, and I'm fine.
Don't cut that out of what you say in the world, okay? Just trust Nikki on this.
Okay, that's fine.
If there's some people who are not going to like that, well,
oh no, I don't care about that.
They're going to be fine. They'll get over it. Like, seriously, they're going to get over it. I mean,
okay.
Like I said, this is my political prediction. Okay, you ready for this? I think the one of two things is going to happen. Well, this is Trump's last term. He can't run again, right? So, and I think it's pretty clear that his successor is going to be J.D. Vance, right? He's the one who's got the most political chops to do that. But I think J.D. Vance, everyone thinks J.D. Vance is going to ask Marco Rubio to be his running mate, and that could happen. But I got a suspicion he just might ask Bobby to be his running mate. He might run a unity ticket, Republican, Democrat. And I got to tell you, if that happens, all bets are off. All bets are off. Yeah. And I think if he does that, Bobby's going to say, I'm happy to do that. But what I'd like is I'd like a portfolio above, carrying the bucket for the president. And I think that could very much happen. And if that doesn't happen, here's the second thing that I think could happen. Not as likely, but the Democrats are having a hard time figuring out what they stand for these days exactly and all of that. And I think a lot of them are thinking, well, Bobby's more like us than he is like them. And if we'd have let him run in a Democrat primary with that famous last name of his, he may have actually been the nominee. And maybe there'd be a Democrat in the White House right now. Maybe we should let Bobby run as a Democrat. Maybe we should draft Bobby. I think that's less likely. But boy, that would make for an interesting next few years if either of those two things happen.
Yeah. And, the other thing that's possible is Bobby will feel like I've done my work and I get to rest. I mean, I think he's in some ways, he's got a harder job than the president right now.
He does. but I don't think he's going to think he's done his work. I think he's going to
Okay.
think I think Bobby Kennedy is going to think there's more to do, a lot more to do.
That's probably true, but I just, oh my gosh.
I got a feeling he's going to get a bigger role in 3 years than the role he had.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
my sense. And I think the Maha movement is probably the part of Donald Trump's administration that's got bipartisan support. It's not just Republicans are on one side of the health issue and Democrats on the other. I think, at least among regular people, everybody's kind of thinking what Bobby's doing is smart and sensible. The only people who oppose it are either the pharma people who are going to lose financially or crazy people. You know, when he said, I'm going to take dye out of food, and I just thought, I just want to see who's going to oppose this. Who's going to oppose this? Is there even one person who's going to publicly say that's a bad idea?
Right.
And I don't remember anybody saying it was a bad idea. I remember everybody was like, yep,
Yep. It's
take out the dyes.
way past time.
Yeah.
Been poisoning our kids and for a long time.
Anyways, no, it was really great having you here, and really enjoyed
Oh,
it.
so great to see you guys.
Thank you. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about today's amazing co-host, an amazing guest, the two and only Teresa Dugwell and Ann Shippy, go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com or wherever you happen to listen to this episode, be it iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, Rumble, Audible, or what have you. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.